Welcome back to the shop, everybody. I've got Ryan's 993 RWB right here behind me, and we're gonna be giving you an update on everything that is going on with his build. So for those of you who have not watched the first video in the series, we recommend going back and watching that, kind of give you an idea of everything that we're gonna be doing to the car. Now, sadly, we kind of ran into an issue where the motor that was already pre-assembled by another shop was not properly put together. And we also found some discrepancies, parts that happened to be involved in that weren't the parts that should have been in it. So originally we had said in the first video that the car was going to be a 3.9. We did later find out that the motor was a 3.8. So Ryan actually asked us to disassemble portions of the motor to allow the car to rev higher. When we took the heads off and we're going to be rebuilding the heads with upgraded valve springs and such other components, we discovered that it was actually a 3.8 kit. So we actually talked with Ryan. We were then discussing with him about potentially boring it to a 4.0 or utilizing some other components. So we actually ended up going with a forged crank, some forged rods that allow us to actually turn it into a 4.0. We didn't realize that the sleeves and some of the other issues that we were running into, and we discovered, how should I say, a couple other issues within inside the motor that we decided that we're gonna get some new sleeves, and now we're going to a 4.1. So we've actually had the motor fully disassembled. So we actually are reassembling the motor fully to allow that 4.1 displacement to come to life. Now we've had the motor in and out multiple times, checking for clearances, whatnot. Now we're gonna actually show you the full reassembly of that motor. So for anyone that's out there that's familiar with the boxer motors, there's a couple little tricks and tips that we can recommend when you're putting those motors together. We'll show you guys that in the next video of the series, either the next or the one after. Okay, so for anyone that's familiar with the 993s or the 964s, now with this particular car, the oil reservoir, actually where the oil lives for that system, actually sits up here. So we've actually removed a lot of components, oil lines that actually go all the way up to the oil cooler in the front. All of that has now been removed. Now we're primarily doing that because on the 996, 997.1 motor, it actually sits on top of the motor. So all that's been removed. We're gonna be kind of making, I guess, pretty much every line that goes in this car pretty much custom. So whether it be coolant or oil lines, all that's kind of been more or less gonna be changed. Now we've started mocking some of those coolers and those other things as well. Now, obviously AC is something else Ryan has wanted to keep in the car. So we're actually gonna be deleting majority of the OEM AC, and we're gonna actually go to an individual standalone, as you would call it, or a auxiliary AC unit. So that's actually gonna be all done electronically. Now, with Ryan's car as a whole, he wants to have it be track orientated, but he still wants to have some of the creature comforts such as AC. We're also gonna be putting a radio in, so we'll show you some stuff on the inside. Now the interior we're gonna be fully going over again. Now we've got a custom leather dash, top and bottom, that's gonna be coming in. We're gonna be doing custom door cards, RS style door cards. We're also gonna be running a couple kicker speakers actually into the doors as well. Steering wheel is actually gonna be replaced. Ryan originally kind of thought he liked the steering wheel, but has opted to go with a Nardi steering wheel instead. We kind of were working with him trying to find something that looked cool. So really hope you guys like the steering wheel that we actually ended up picking out. It looks honestly very tasteful. A little bit more, how should I say, modern looking than this. Now this is a actual RS steering wheel, which arguably is not a cheap steering wheel by any means, but it did get a little damaged and scraped up when somebody went to put it on the first time. It kind of like reamed them out. So we're gonna go ahead and get this off. We're gonna actually do a quick disconnect on the steering wheel as well. And something else that's very common actually in the 993 world is we're actually gonna be utilizing the 964 bezel over here. So the bezels here, when you do like a quick disconnect setup or a hub adapter, you end up getting this kind of gap on the sides of the steering column, and it doesn't really look as it should. So if you utilize the 964 hub, how should we call it, the shroud, I guess is what you would call it. If you use that 964 shroud around there, it gives it a much more uniform look, way classier. And as you can see here, we started running the electric for the Haltech. We'll kind of show you that powered on. Now we are gonna have a custom insert that's actually gonna go in the dash. So you won't have the traditional gauge pods that you would see normally. You're actually gonna see this Haltech system just in front and center. Now the shifter wasn't quite installed correctly either. Little strip, let's just be honest. So we're actually gonna come here and readjust this. It's not quite where it needs to be sitting as well. So this is also gonna get removed. and reinstalled correctly. Now we are going to be going with a Apple CarPlay setup that's more or less kind of modern looking. So everyone kind of runs in the 964s, 993s, runs a relatively small and slim, and we'll show you once we install that as well. So the traditional like vinyl material that's on the top here, we're actually gonna opt to swap this out. We're gonna do an Alcantara on the top. Now the door cards and the dashes, as I mentioned, that we're gonna be replacing, we're gonna be doing those actually all in leather. So no Alcantara touch points, which absolutely looks phenomenal, especially in the 993s and some of the older cars. I love when people put Alcantara in them. Me personally, Audi has always had the Alcantara headlamps. I've always loved that as well. Biggest problem though is when you have Alcantara touch points is they tend to get gross, especially steering wheels, shift knobs, dashes even. So we've actually kind of talked with Ryan and kind of want to keep it tastefully modified, but at the same time give it a good look instead of this tacky vinyl that Porsche originally had on the roof here. We are going to be removing the rear window. This glass has got to come out. We're going to actually put a proper seal. The weather stripping that was on there before just wasn't to Ryan's taste, so we're actually going to be popping that out and putting an actual rubber seal in. This actually is going to be coming out most likely tomorrow. As you can see here, we do have the Elite 2500 engine management through Haltech, as we had mentioned, and all the wiring that goes with it. We'll go ahead and get that powered on so you can kind of see some of that, which is kind of cool. Now we're gonna go ahead and be doing a lot of wiring, and there's gonna be some piggybacking that is gonna be required to run some of the certain accessories that are in the car, but pretty much the motor and everything that's important to be run through the Haltech. So traditional gauge clusters do look better in my opinion, and I'm kind of anti-digital gauge clusters on modern day cars. I really am. But when you have something that is truly kind of set up as a race car, or how should I say, a track orientated car, going with something like that makes so much more sense. You have pretty much anything and everything in front of your face, whether it be manifold pressure, coolant temp, air temperature, of what, what's going in, EGTs even. That's all kind of important information when you're dogging the absolute shit out of your car. So modern day digital dashes seem kind of laggy a lot of times, even though they're actually faster than an analog gauge. But in my head, there's just something about it that just kind of kills some of the 90s and 80s appeal. It's kind of why I like the 997. As you get away from the 997, 991, get into the newer Porsches, it's like kind of numbing and almost less fulfilling, I guess, when you drive them. So the headlights, more or less, were not wired up hardly at all. There's no ballast or anything in there, so we're gonna have to do the wiring for the ballast and the headlights. So as we've kind of taken everything off this car, we've also realized that nothing has been done to the car, really. So we've kind of have to, tackle this as we're doing everything, interior, electrical. So we went ahead and also removed the suspension from the front and rear. Now, Ryan actually had the KWs here that actually had front and rear lift, which most people actually just put lift in the front. Ryan actually opted to do all four. We did find out there was a couple things improperly installed. A couple of the strut mount on the top here were stripped, which was kind of a pain in the ass getting them out of the car. But what's really funny is Ryan arguably just wanted something that felt better overall. So these were actually gonna come out anyways, regardless if these were stripped or not. Now, he actually opted for the JRZ RS Pro 3s. Now, he was contemplating going with the Öhlins. I kind of was like in the air about it. Now with the Öhlins, you actually have to kind of do some modifications to the TTX suspension. We're looking for something a little bit more aggressive that would be better for track use. Now, the JRZ as a whole, it's arguably probably the best kit on the market, I would argue. There's only a few other options that are gonna be on point. Something that's really cool with the kit that we've opted to go with is it actually has electronic lift. So it actually uses an external reservoir that more or less deletes all the hubbub that requires all the custom lines. And I would call it a relatively large tank that actually sits in the front that utilized the lift for this kit. The kit that he's actually opted to go with, the lift kit as a whole, is just so much more superior, so much more convenient. When the car originally came in, it was supposed to be a handful of things, but now it has turned into everything, which we love that we get to help Ryan make this the dream car, the setup that he wants. Now, we really hope you guys enjoy the content that comes from this build over the next couple months. We're really hoping to kind of stay on track with getting video content out every week. We've kind of held ourselves accountable to that and kind of stuck to a certain time schedule, so you can expect to see videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And as always, thanks for watching.